Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Sweet Lily Love titled On Wauconda Raver. And if we switch over to here, we have the track on the screen. It's 7 minutes 30, which is usually around the limit length of tracks that I review here, as I do have a 7-minute 30 time limit on most tracks. However, it's okay for today, it's all good. A lot of the tracks in this type of music are a bit longer, so that's fine. We're going to listen through this track from start to finish and hear what we think, and we have lyrics at the end as well. So yeah, let's go, make it full screen. Boom. My understanding is this is like a tribute to a high school or something like that, along with the people that were in it. It's got that kind of vibe to it. Okay. Interesting, Okay, massive change, massive shift here. You know, we had that slower build there with some interesting sort of reggaetonish kind of drum vibes going, and then suddenly we into that happy hardcore stuff. You know, the vocal quality is really nice and fresh in the mix. The drums are nice and punchy and sidechain well with the other elements. The low end is managed well. Catchy melody in the center. Lots of fun ornamentation happening on the far sides. Yeah, back to that theme there. Cool. Okay, so I think we've instantiated the theme relatively well at this point. Obviously it's quick. I can't imagine how you dance to this, but I know there's people who rave to this kind of stuff, which is dope. Hell of a workout, eh? Oh, and we're slowing down now. Okay. Ah, the air horns. Staple of genre. Because of the crowd in the background, you can hear the foley, the people chanting and sort of screaming and stuff like that. It works well with the video, but also what's happening here is that it does sound kind of remind you of a live gig or something like that. Oh, okay, different drum kit. It's more like a gig, or like is this mean like a DJ set or something like that? I have to hand it to the Sweet Lily Love. We're going through these different styles. Like, I can tell that I think I know what we're trying to do here. I think we're trying to incorporate different styles of this kind of wow, kind of unusual bass synth. And I appreciate and respect it, and I love the hustle behind it. I love the hustle behind it. I like that we're hungry for it. Typically, as a music reviewer, I prefer to have like one sort of style throughout. You can change the themes here. You can even have tempo shifts, don't get me wrong. But it's nice, even things sort of like slow down and then come back up. When you get a track like this is arguably more progressive just because of the variation in the... It's more like a journey than anything else, right? It just feels like a completely different song at this point. The production quality is absolutely sensational, though. I'm really enjoying the way that it glistens in the mix, the brightness, the glowing of the various elements. This is a very strong drop. And dynamic range with those more subtle elements, the sequences on the sides. Hey, Beavis and Butthead. I have to admit, I'm curious about these samples and these references and where they come in. Maybe this is stuff that people grew up with? Like, is it like stuff they grew up with in high school or something like that? This theme that we're sort of singing here is great. It's fantastic. It kind of reminds me of what we had initially at the start. I enjoy that. Recall back to the beginning there. And I'm familiar with it from some of the earlier stuff I've listened to from Sweet Little Love. I like that we're trying to sort of rework elements and kind of figure out our own niche and such. It's what you got to do as a musician. You've got to look at what you've done, see how you can change it, not improve it necessarily, because there's lots of love for a lot of Sweet Little Love's work. You know, if there's ever been any sort of disagreements, it's been in like the sound of instruments in the mix. You know what I mean? Like, but oh, great clarity of those vocals on the side. Yeah, I have no idea where we're going next. It sounds like another drop though. Yeah, we got the LP. I'm not sure how I feel about the harmony we've got going on here and how it's working with it. There's some spicy notes in there. I think we're reaching for some majors and a bit of warmth in that mid-range. But what's going on is you got this really pure vocal melody up top that's very clean and pristine in response to that. There's just a little bit of, I don't know what it is. There could be one note in there that sounds like it's maybe reaching for a direction it shouldn't. I'm in like that second chord part. But it resolves nicely and loops back into itself. That kind of Euro trance kind of groove to it. And back up to that. It's a great way to start a Sunday. All this whistling that I have and all these frenetic, frantic synths on the side. Yeah, this is... I can kind of... It's so fucking wild, man. It's just so intense and so insane and so full on. It's one of the most wild pieces of music I've listened to inside my entirety of my reviews. It's like I'm not tired because I think it's the music itself is inherently tiring. It's just such an intense experience for a lot of the time. That everything everything that goes up must come down part is cool. I assume we're gonna. Purple and gold. Alright. Alright. Okay. Alright. Okay, sweet little love. What have you thrown at us today? 7 minutes 30. I've got some notes here. This is dedicated to Mr. McQuaid and Mr. Tedeschi, my high school choir and music theory teachers respectively. They were basically the first people to introduce me to the world of participating in the magic of music. Go dogs, go. So I think this is a sweet tribute. I think it's a sweet sentiment. I enjoy the personality behind it. I think that we got ourselves a really good cause for it. I think that if you can directly relate this music, stuff you grew up with or where you came from, I assume that's the color of like the sports team or something like that they have. I know that like college stuff is really, really important. I mean, I'm still kind of getting my head around like high school and college over in the States. Our high school goes until we're like, I don't know. We'll figure it out anyways. Oh, Wauconda. Pride of Purple, Dog Slays Fight. Yeah. There we go. So definitely it's a game thing. And I think that the intensity of those drops and the way this boom, 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 or boom, 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 any tempo, it's a groove that people can get behind and kind of vibe with. I like that a lot, you know. Dogs are on the scene. You'll never triumph if you miss with 118. Oh man, we are not missing. We're not messing around, are we? If you've seen the Little Candy Raver, please tell her that I love her true. Oh, so going back to the Little Candy Raver vibe, that's great. When she spins, she comes a whirlwind. When she jumps, she soars above. There is no one like the Little Candy Raver. She'll fill our troubled hearts with love. We are not messing around with this cuteness and adorable sentiment going on here with On Wauconda Raver. Go Wauconda Raver, On Wauconda Girl, Little Candy Raver, see her dance to 12. So yeah, okay, all right. I think I understand what this track is about now. Because this is my conclusion of my review of Sweet Lily Love's On Wauconda Raver. A 7.5 minute track that is, it's the length of a lot of the longer tracks I grew up with, like rock and metal and stuff like that. It's cool. The song is about showing some love for your high school, your football team, having a bit of getting pepped up and going to that rally and kind of getting everyone fired up and motivated. And then we're bringing it back to like the Candy Raver, stuff like that, and kind of tying together the Candy Raver with, I think, the skull at the end and trying to sort of make a connection there. And I think that it works. It's a really interesting direction to go in. I haven't had someone try to combine the two elements before of like their high school with this kind of electronic music, which I think is actually an innately clever thing because there are so many people trying to do the exact same thing. It's boring. Do something different. Okay? That's your PSA for today from Spiderhands. When I listen to the vocals in this track, I think it's some of Sweet Little Love's best work. I not only like the production value, but also we hit those melodies really cleanly. Even when we talked about the purple and gold at the end or something like that, we just smashed it. I dig it. It's so great to just have that professionalism on that tap. It sounds like a confident vocal performance as well. The experience that Sweet Little Love has had over the time that she's been doing this is showing now. We're refining it, we're polishing it. A lot of, obviously, the vocal takes were synthetic, and there was a fair bit of vocal modulation at the end there when we had that stuff going on with the really warbly kind of vibrato-y stuff on the side. I'll be honest, I wasn't super into it, but I can nonetheless appreciate what we were trying to do there, and I think that it's cool to mess around with things and see what you can get away with. I think that if you try Play it too safe, it can be a detriment, you know? So I'm glad that we mixed with different textures. I wasn't sure which vocal line I was supposed to pay attention though, to be fair. I don't know whether I was meant to be taken in both at the same time or one. It was overwhelming, but I'm not meaning that necessarily a bad way. I think music can be overwhelming without it being a negative. And I think that having that at the end was like a way of kind of leading up to that. And I mean, you couldn't have done that at the start. Like if it had been that intense on the offset, it just would have been too much for me. I would have been like, no, I can't do 7 minutes of this. Primarily because the way it elevates you without being able to sort of dance it out and sort of get out of your system can sort of exhaust you a little bit, you know. But no, it's great. Again, especially if you're into this kind of music, you'll adore this, you know. And to be fair, I do like this kind of music. You know, I used to go to raves and stuff like that when I was younger. It's dope. There's a time and place for it. And Sweet Little Love is, again, she's refining her vocals. And I think that that's a highlight of this track. The structure of this track was, what was the structure of this track? I mean, it went through several different genres or types or different tempos at the start. And I think near the end, we found our sort of footing and we kind of got to a point where we were like, yeah, okay. Yeah, we're going to stick at that range there. We're going to stick with that sort of groove there. So maybe we decided to experiment at the beginning and then we're like, no, we've had that experimentation. We're showing what we're capable of. Now we want to go back to what we're sort of like, what our sort of main line, you know? And it kind of sounded like we had different tracks. Like we were doing some sort of DJ mix or like it was a live show or something. If that's what we were going for, that's dope. Even if we weren't, it could just be a happy accident. I'm not used to people putting those different massive tempo changes and stuff but that may be a part of the genre of music I'm not necessarily familiar with as much as I used to be. And if that's a stylistic change that's commonplace among songs within this genre, then that's totally fine. All in all then, it did carry sentiments and similar instruments throughout the place. We had lots of synths and little basses and drums and stuff like that. The sidechaining on the drums was phenomenal. I mean, talking from like an arrangement perspective and just the level of attention to detail here. There were no filler bits despite it being 7.5 minutes. You know, I never felt like it was ever too much. Whenever we had a theme repeat, we'd put something on top and then we'd put another thing to the sides or something like that. You know, it never felt like it was phoned in. We clearly understood that we had that length of time and we needed to keep it interesting and engaging throughout. And again, we left the heavy stuff, especially full-on stuff near the end, which I think shows an awareness of what's appropriate and what's not. If you tire the listener out too much at the beginning, they may not finish the song. And that sounds like such a weak response, I know. Tiring out the listener, what are you talking about, granddad? And it's like, no, hear me out. People already have like such limited time attention spans. If it's too much, they'll just click off. You have to work towards that elevated state. You can't just get someone there off the bat. You got to kind of like, it's like it's a horrible anecdote, but it's like there's less appropriate ones I can think of, if that makes it any better. Like putting a frog in a pot of boiling water. You don't just put it in the water hot. You have to turn it. That's horrible. I'm not going to continue with that. I don't condone that stuff. But you know what I mean, though. Like you have to go slowly with it. You just be gentle with it. I think that there were really elegant, engaging, compelling sort of synth leads, and the pads were spectacular, and it had a playfulness that was in unison with those vocal melodies. And just whether we had the single vocals by themselves or we had the harmonies going on with very different effects chains on them, it worked. It worked. It was certainly one of the more unique experiences I've had recently, not only for a track of this length, but also just the wild adventure we went between those styles. The different drum sounds and different bass sounds and stuff like that as well. Like we clearly understood like what we wanted from these individual sections, and we were trying to sort of form an identity for them. I think for the most part it worked. It's just sort of me thinking in retrospect whether or not the connections justified the means. All in all, I don't think there was a note out of place. Aside from like that stuff I was talking about, like there's like at the 2/3 mark, there was like a kind of a harmony thing going on there. I wasn't sure if we needed to go towards that major or not. I think that's like a purely subjective thing, to be fair. There were people who go, no, let that be there. The spiciness is good. And other people will be like, no, I want a more sort of like a less harmonically dissonant experience. And even then, it's not like it wasn't like it was unpleasurable. It wasn't like it was dislikable. It's just me being really kind of pedantic and anal about it. If I hear something that's like, no, I think this could have potentially been better without it, I'm going to say it because I'm doing a review. But I have to be more specific. So there was just like a major third and one of those sort, like the second or third chord there that if we may have removed that, it might have sort of like evened things out a little bit, but it may have made it less interesting because of that. Aside from that stuff, like I want to say the production, the recording, mixing, and mastering, but I'm sure the stuff I'm missing out with the actual like structure and arrangement itself. There's just so much to take in a track like this. 7.5 minutes is very long. It's very long. And again, I know that there's songs within this genre that are that length. It's a ballsy move to release a track that is that length, especially if it's a person's first impression. Like, if there's any way we could potentially do like a short version of this, that'd be good. I think that like if the people at the high school that that's related to listen to it, they'd probably vibe with it, even if there's like a way of just cutting it down to like below 4 minutes. But of course we wouldn't get that journey through the different elements as we went along otherwise. And I think this is potentially like more of a through composed progressive track where we're trying to explore our capabilities as a producer, as a vocalist, as a musician. I think that's good. It's just being aware of what listeners will tolerate versus what we want out of our music. And I think this track will get some positive attention. I think if people have the time, they'll listen through it from start to finish. There's nothing, once they get started, there's nothing to intrinsically stop them from like listening through it, because the only thing I mentioned about the utter intensity at the end, that comes at the end, right? And then it resolves itself. But yeah, I mean, the quality of the actual vocal recordings was fantastic. The quality of the EQing and field effects change on the various other instruments was phenomenal, including the vocals. There was nice reverb, delay bits, little bits of filtering and flanging or something like that, or like little bits of oscillation, and the automation of the panning, stereo field going backwards and forwards was just sensational. It was so twisty in it, and the vocals going around your headphones and stuff like that. That would have taken a lot of time to get this to where we wanted it to be. I cannot understate how much effort was put into the post-production here. I can just tell that it was taking a while to really get things polished and perfected. And I have to respect that as someone who understands the work that was put in there, I don't think that work was wasted. I think it was utterly compelling because of that. I think if you had everything in a static position in the stereo field, it just wouldn't have hit the same. When I listened to, the way things were glued, and the panning of stereo field, everything had a home. There were no weird resonances for the most part. There were no things that were like, oh, I don't understand why we had this here, It was nice and loud without pumping. All in all, it's one of the more unique songs, again, I listened to in a while. And I have to thank Sweet Lily Love for bringing in something that's a bit out of the box for me to listen to on a Sunday. It's usually a day of rest for me, but I genuinely feel pumped after listening to this. I also feel like I need to have a coffee though. It's like that kind of pumped where like you feel energetic because the music's affected you positively, but also that you just need time to absorb it because there's just so much of it. But I think generally it's a positive review. I think Sweet Lily Love is going in the right direction. And yeah, that's effectively my review of Sweet Lily Love's on Wauconda Raver. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show Sweet Lily Love some love via their various social medias and and their like website and other things. And stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.